So this is the Concordia University version of the rapture. Whoever comes to class on the Friday before break goes to heaven. So make sure you put your initials on this. Sure. Chances are I'll get there ahead of you when you show up. Ross. Okay, so interesting song. This came out a long time ago. Paul Simon and Garfunkel. Paul Simon. Garrett, you might know. You know Chevy Chase.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not that old.
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're old enough. Okay. So interesting song though, because Paul Simon is contrasting faith with truth, right? Okay, this is something that Hebrews, that we're going to get onto the book of Hebrews today. Steve, can you close that door for us, please? You have one of those professors that locks the door when class starts? Yeah, what class is that?
Dr. Sampson.
Yeah, do you know why?
I don't know why, but I know it's all about punctuality. You're not there, if you're there at what, 8 a.m. So if you're there at 8:01, you're not, you might as well not show up.
How does business work? If I'm paying you and you come late for me, you know Professor Nagel, the executive friend of mine. Were you in the class when he called security and had him walk the student out? Yeah, welcome to real life. So, because he's a Wall Street, he's the real deal worldwide, and so he has a no phone policy like I do, no electric stuff. And so he's teaching away, and he sees this young lady on her phone. So he goes to the phone, says, "Security, I need you to walk somebody out of the building." So you're on your phone. She's, no, that's not works in the real world. So bye. So he did let her come back next class period, but how do you impress upon people that, the real world, you got to be there. So anyway, so back to this thing. So proof in faith. Now, the models help, because I would agree with Paul Simon that faith, if it means personal preferences for what I wish were true, what I'd like to be true, but has no basis in reality, then I would agree with him. But he's casting a net more broadly, like anything having to do with religion is faith. Do you know what he means by it's an island in the setting sun? So if you were over at the coast and you were watching the sunset behind Catalina, and then Catalina's gone, disappears. So that's what he means. Like the time in history when Neanderthal and primeval human beings practiced religions because they didn't know any better, that's over. Now we're moving forward into atheism and a better experience for humanity, correct? Except if you look at the history of atheism, right? So the USSR was atheist, yes? And they were militant about it. You're not allowed to be anything except atheist. And of course, they were all, ponies and gumdrops, right? In the USSR. They never attacked anybody or did any harm to anyone, right, Garrett? It's the most peaceable nation in history. Or Red China, right? Communist China, Cuba. So Red Pyramid world doesn't matter what name you put on it. You could call it capitalist, call it communist. It all tends to do the same thing. So proof, Melanie, what's proof?
Like evidence to
Evidence, absolutely right. Okay, and evidence like a document.
It could be that, or it could be like depending on the situation, it could be like a picture or a video.
Smoking gun.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And when science provides you evidence for what it's teaching you about how things work, how do they do it, Bill? Science. No, it's all right. Science, you're going to learn the facts about science. How do you do that normally? Oh, yeah, testing experience. Yes. Okay. Have you guys done every single test that ever was done that's recorded in a science textbook? So you don't actually know that stuff's true. You know what you're doing? You're believing that it's true because a book told you. Now, I'm not saying there's any reason to disbelieve the book. I'm just saying you're taking somebody else's eyewitness testimony as evidence, correct? Are you ready for this? What's the Bible? Eyewitness testimony. Doesn't get any better than that, doesn't. So what makes science good when it is good is the same thing that makes religion good when it's good. And it's eyewitness testimony. It's advancing evidence for knowing how things work. What makes religion bad, interestingly, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's bad science. And there's science that's agenda driven and usually has to do with funding. So when you're a scientist and you need funding, you will invent things if you need to. So it's not uncommon that archaeologists will often create things that they present as evidence so that they can keep their funding and they haven't actually found anything. So interesting, it's on Netflix, an ongoing documentary thing about archaeology in Egypt. And you might not be surprised actually at how often they don't find anything. But it's expensive, so I need more money kind of a thing. Okay, so back to 2 Timothy, well, we're picking up where we left off. 2 Timothy 2, starting at verse 24. We're going to be in a big book next, Hebrews. It's easier to find. So from the Acts, Revelation, Jude, 3:2:1 John, 2:1 Peter, James, Hebrews, 2 Philemon, right? Philemon's after 2 Timothy, 1 Timothy is right before it, 2:24. Ross, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kind to everyone, able to teach patiently,
Julie?
enduring evil.
Oh, thank you, sorry. Julie?
Correcting his opponents with gentleness, God may perhaps grant them repentance leading to a knowledge of the truth.
No.
And they may come to their senses and escape from the snare of the devil after being captured by him to do his will.
Okay, so I wanted to get to you this apt teacher part. So in the New Testament, when it uses the word teacher, and it does in a few different places, it's not talking about a school teacher like you're used to thinking about. It's talking about a pastor. So remember, there's lots of words that describe the public, the person who represents Christ in public. All Christians represent Christ all the time, but when it comes to public responsibilities, then that's invested in a single person, and a lot of qualifications have to be met to do that. Otherwise, you're misrepresenting the truth, and that undermines what God's trying to do. Well, the fundamental characteristic of this person who's going to be Christ in public is that he's able to teach, but that's not actually what it says. The Greek word there that's translated apt to teach actually means a good student. And so we talked about this just a little bit last time. The best teachers, the best professors are the best because they absolutely love what they teach, and that's because they're a student of it all the time. So if you're a student of something all the time, you always have something new and interesting to share. So like, how many PowerPoint slides do you think we should cover in 50 minutes? The average is 17. That's a good pace. We're not flying through them and we're not making you go to sleep. 17. Okay. Do you know how many I have collected in each class meeting now? It's over 50 because I keep thinking of stuff. So then I have to keep sorting things out. Well, wait, this is better than that, and that sort of a thing. But a good student can help other people become good students. It's also important to notice that you're not quarrelsome. Right? You're not just picking fights or arguing with people about it because you like to do that. And that you correct opponents, people who oppose you, you correct them how? Gentleness, gently, right? So that's a function of all those things Jesus taught in the gospel, like take the log out of your own eye first, and then you can see clearly to take the speck out of the other person's eye. You know that you're beset by weaknesses, so you're sympathetic with other people's weaknesses. I hope that's what you're witnessing in the faculty across Concordia's campus, because we all have the same commitment to this kind of thing. Okay. Yes, and now verse, I think this is a different chapter, but I don't think it's 2 anymore. Yep, it's 3 verse 12. Where are we? Say real. 3 verse 12.
Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted.
Go.
While evil people and impostors will go on from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived.
And as for you, continue what you have learned and have firmly believed, now you continue.
Now, let me pause you right there. Deceiving and being deceived. See the red ink there? That for those of you that read the Jaron Lanier book, or maybe you're just been keeping up with social media kinds of things, you know there's this new thing called fake news, yes? Do you know that they program computers to pretend to be people, to populate polls and to create data, those sorts of things, okay? Deceiving and being deceived. The being deceived part is that the people who engineer that sort of thing and become wealthy because of it, think that's making a better life for them. So they're becoming rich off of making the population antagonistic towards one another, but who wants to live in that kind of population? And so now verse 15.
And how from childhood you have been acquainted with the sacred writings, which are able to lead to lasting salvation through faith in Christ Jesus.
And Garrett.
All scriptures breathed out by and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness.
Amy.
That the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work.
Okay, so this becomes possible that the teacher, the public representative of God, may be equipped for every good work, but what does the equipping? It's the person's life in this word. So immersed in this revelation of God makes that person capable of sharing that revelation with other people. Now, verse 15, I always look forward to this class period during the semester. Look what it says. Now, in your Bible, it said what? And how from when have you known the sacred writings? Childhood. See, no. From conception and infancy. So Greek, we have it too. We have different words for different stages of human development, right? So infancy, toddler, child, adolescent, teenager, young adult, that kind of thing. In Greek, a brephos is from conception until they're not nursing anymore. So conception to maybe year and a half, 2 years old. Okay. Then you have a naevius. What's a naevius? That's a little kid that's not nursing anymore, so they're eating on their own, but they're too little to spank. Like no physical, because they wouldn't understand that anyway, right? You get a timeout. Okay, and then you go to a pais, which has to do with they're old enough to know better, so you need to help them with that memory lesson, and then technon, which is more like an adolescent. So the word here is that how from infancy, even before you were born. So some of you, I think I had it on the next slide. Yeah, some of you read this book, but this has been around for a while here. 1981. So this is like a 20-year-old book, right? A newer publication, but some of you have read this. Here's a newer publication, it's not bigger, right? But there's been lots of advances in photography. So this is really quite fantastic. It doesn't have all of the text and background studies that this book has, but it does have fantastic photography. And look how old this is already. So old. 1965, Life magazine did a special. Okay, so this is photography that was taken by, it was a Scandinavian photographer that was interested in pregnancy and got together with an obstetrician and was able to capture these pictures. So lots of pictures and something like that. And then there's also text that goes with it that's describing what you're looking at. Like this. So the cool thing about this is out of print, which means I get to have it printed here and give it away. So if you want one of these, you're welcome to it. I'll just leave them up here. And at the end of the Sunny, if you want one, please do. The other thing I have to share with you today are these. So I have 4 of each. I have a set. I'll pass them around each side of the room. But these fetal models are accurate. So this is a 26-week-old baby. Compare it to 12 weeks old. Okay, but they are anatomically correct. They're weighted correctly, and the material they use even is something like, it's about as close as you can get to skin without it being skin. So I want to send them around because I want you to feel it's quite fantastic. So 12 weeks, pass it around. Yeah, do that. This is 16 weeks. See, and you're even starting to do stuff with infants in them, like, oh, yeah, kind of a thing. Here, 22 weeks. Now, we've already been able to keep alive 20-week-old infants. So 2 weeks earlier than this, we've had to deliver babies because something was going wrong and they survived. That's at 40 is full term. Yeah. That's. And look at this one. And this is not somebody having fun with you. They've actually captured pictures of 26-week-old infants sucking their thumbs. You can shine a bright light at the mother's abdomen and they'll turn away. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It's quite fantastic. This is 26 weeks. So it's they're making their way around. I did bring 2 sets just so you know. The other cool thing that's relatively new is that they're available in different skin tones, right?
Where did you even get these?
It's easy. You want me to get you a set? No. Why not?
I don't want my RA to worry about me.
Tell them I teach your RA something. Okay, so I forgot the name of the company that makes these, but they make them in support of education. So nursing programs, medical schools, any kind of school actually, right? Like if you were a high school biology teacher, I would want you to have a set of these, right? Why wouldn't you want a set of these? I have the lighter skin tone back at my office because I got that a long time ago and it didn't come with a cool case. So I brought the cool case ones. Anyway, so any questions about, yeah, these guys? Did you get them? Yeah, they're coming around, Joe. Yeah. So fun? How fun is that? Are any of you scared of them? I have had students who are like, yo. Are any of you the youngest in your family? Okay. Are you a little bit nervous about having a baby, bringing a baby home from the hospital? No? See, I was the youngest, and so I don't have any experience with that. Like my older siblings, like they always had some baby around there kind of thing. So when I brought my wife and first baby home from the hospital, like, I'm not sure I want to do about this whole thing, especially when they're crying. Yes, you have these two.
Yeah.
Have you had a heavy one yet? Yeah, there's 22 weeks. Yeah. Oh, no, that's the 26. And Sonny, if you get a set of these, it comes with baby powder.
No way.
Way. Now, that's the reason it comes with baby powder is because we have oil in our skin, and if you're handling the lighter ones, eventually your oil will stain them. Now, they're not quite as. In fact, I kind of don't want to use white baby powder on darker colored babies, but anyway, yeah. One.
I'll be all right. Too much gizmo if I don't.
How long has he had these?
These?
Mhm.
These just came because some students on Concordia's campus started a For Life club. So I got these so that they would have more models to use and take to schools and stuff. I've had my set 7, 8 years. Yeah. So one of my daughters, the one that lives in Indiana, She is for a pro-life group. That's her job. She's an organizer and stuff. So she's the one that told me about this. Yeah. Okay, big fun. Creation, just quite a fantastic, exciting thing. Now we can go to Hebrews. So go head towards the back of the Bible from Timothy. And Hebrews is a bigger book, so it's easier to find. So do you want to share with Danielle or you want to? I got one. Yeah, sure. You're welcome. So Hebrews. The first thing to ask, of course, is doesn't it seem to be in the wrong place? So we've been reading letters from Paul, and they've been going by size, from 16 chapters to 12 chapters, and working our way down. Philemon's only 1 chapter long, right? So what's Hebrews doing at the end? Hebrews is 13 chapters long. Well, the reason it's at the end is because we don't have the same confidence that Paul wrote it as we do the rest of the letters. And why is that? Because he doesn't start it like he normally starts a letter. So all of the other letters start with, guess what? Paul, writing to so-and-so in such and such a place. Okay. Does that mean that he couldn't have or didn't read it? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means it's not there. Okay, so if it wasn't Paul, who was it? Well, likely Apollos. So you see the second one there. So we know about Apollos from Acts, and we know that he was an articulate person and that he sort of worked with Paul and followed Paul. And if you have experience with literature and writing, what you may know is the more you read a particular person, the more you begin to talk and write like that person, begin to think like that person. So that's a reasonable explanation for why this book would look like and sound like Paul wrote it, but maybe he didn't. So a likely answer is Apollos. Do remember also that when it comes to the books that are in the Bible, remember that they're in the Bible because they passed this constant testing for authenticity. In other words, lots of people tried to get some books of the Bible out, and they couldn't because the authenticity of the books was too powerful. Similarly, there were other books, they still exist, we know about them, that were trying to get in the Bible but didn't, for the same reason in reverse, that they could not demonstrate with any kind of certainty that these books were authentically written by prophets or apostles, so they didn't get in. So Hebrews is there, so it's reliable. It was written somewhere between 64 and 67. It was written from Rome, if it was Paul, because remember 64 and following somewhere right in there is when Paul's executed. It was written from Alexandria, Egypt, if it was Apollos. Notice it's written to a Jewish Christian community, so it's got a lot of language that's based in the Old Testament. So you wouldn't expect Paul to write that kind of referential material if he was primarily writing to non-Jewish audiences. So there you go. And he does talk about these Jewish people sort of lapsing back into Old Testament ways of thinking, especially Jewish practices from the Old Testament, calling them back out of those. So notice it's an intense warning against, what's this? Anybody know what apostasy is? Yeah, I didn't think so. Most people don't know. It doesn't get used a lot, that word. It means unbelief, but literally, histemi in Greek is to stand, apa is away from, so it's standing away from something. So you used to be connected with people that were committed to a certain ideal or principle or way of life, and now you're backing away from the same, I can't be a part of that sort of thing. Okay. Remember Romans, there was sort of this progression of thinking on a line. Remember James, sort of making concentric circles, talking about so many subjects over and over again in bigger ways each time. Philippians had those 4 pieces, death and life. This Hebrews has an easy way to understand what it's trying to get at. And this is important because if you haven't read Hebrews yet, what you'll find is that chapters 5 through 9 are pretty complicated. Like, so when I'm reading at home with my family, and I get to chapters 5 through 9, my wife is always complaining, like, I don't have any idea what he's talking about here. So I have to slow it way down and try to help her navigate her way. But this will help you a lot. So the overall issue, what Hebrews, the letter to the Hebrews, Hebrew as in Jews, the letter to the Hebrews, what it's working on is this question. In other words, is the lesser historically eclipsed by the greater? In other words, the lesser came in history as indications of what would come, and then that which it pointed to, the greater did come. So shouldn't we move forward from the lesser to the greater? It's a little bit like, anybody still have an iPhone 1? Yeah, why would you even do that? It doesn't even work probably anymore. Okay, so progress has the idea that something that's older has not come along in the development of technology, so you're going to leave that behind and you're going to move forward. Now, that's not always true. For example, my first car was a 1930 Model A Ford. That car is still running. So imagine if you were alive in 1930, you could have bought my car for $450, and that's all you ever spent on a car, still going. So I'm not sure that we made progress. Now you can spend $60,000 for a car, and in 4 years, not so good. It's not reliable anymore. Okay, but mostly we're making progress. We're getting there. Okay, so lesser like what? So you'll see the letter to the Hebrews clicking through these different subjects like angels. Like, aren't angels cool? Yeah. There were angels doing things in the Old Testament, and it was cool, and it was exciting, and it was powerful, but angels aren't the Son of God. And so angels were an indication of, they were a way of showing people what this promised Messiah was going to be like, but it's not the Messiah himself. But what happens is that people tend to revert. Okay, so yeah, we learned about Christ, but I like this angel thing better, kind of thing. It's a little bit like, you know how little kids will have a stuffed animal that they've had since they were an infant, they've been growing up with it, and then now you're 5 and 6 years old and you're not sure what it is anymore. Like, it used to be a rabbit, but now it's this kind of naked looking thing that's dirty. So you go out and you get your kid a new one, like, stop carrying that rag around. Here's a new one. It's the same thing. This is new one. And the kid doesn't want it, right? No, that's not no, I like the old one, kind of thing. So Moses, so you remember from Paul's other letters and from Acts that the Jews had a lot of trouble leaving Moses, even though Moses condemned them under the law rather than saved them from the law. They loved David, even though David was an adulterer, a murderer, a perjurer. They loved the prophets and the priests and the kings, but none of those prophet, priests, or kings actually ever saved the people. They were indications of what God was going to do that would save the people, sacrifices, and even the Old Testament itself. Now, not Genesis through Malachi, Old Testament, but this particular testament that was established with Moses. So that's that particular legal system that had sacrifices involved and a calendar you had to keep and dietary restrictions and all sorts of other rules that were intended to show the people you don't want to live a life under the law, and it won't help you anyway. So Old Testament Israel, the Israel of Moses, is it or isn't it replaced by the body of Christ, who is the Son of Man? So that's what Hebrews is going to be working on here. So Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1. Where are we? Steve, please.
Long ago, at many times, and where God spoke to our fathers by the prophets.
Priscilla?
But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world.
Mhm.
He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he does upholds the universe by the word of his power, after making purification for sins, sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high.
Back to you, Ross, verse 4. 1 verse 4. Yeah, you can read off here if you like. Having become.
Okay. Having become as much superior to angels as the name he has obtained is more excellent than theirs.
Yeah, so who is greater, as in more powerful and important? The person that builds the house or the house? Amy? The house is greater? Okay, I'm gonna give you a choice. You can create a list this year for Santa Claus, and I'll guarantee you get everything on it. Doesn't matter what, put anything on it you want, but this is your one shot. This year, Christmas, everything on your list. Or you could work for Santa Claus the rest of your life. Which would you choose? Okay, let's try it, right? So let's say, okay, you got your list, right? I want that house I saw on the coast in San Clemente, want that one. And I want the yacht I saw from the house, I want that. And I want to see, oh, big list, okay, good. Okay, there it all is, Christmas morning, there you go. Okay, now going forward, now what? So I have the money, just I remembered to put money in because you have taxes. So I have the house and the boat and the money and all the stuff like that. But as time goes on, what happens to all those things? Over time, right, things tend to disintegrate. And what if there's something new you want? Now you used up all your wishes, okay? If you work for Santa Claus every single year, what's your job? What do you do? Make things to give away that makes people happy, especially little kids. That's being a parent is so much better than a kid. And I love being a kid at Christmas, but there's no comparison. Like, it is a blast. Okay, so who's greater, the house or the person who built the house? Well, if you say the house, then what happens if your house burns down? Now you're done. If you stick with the person that built the house, that's okay. I'll just make you a new one. So look back at the diagram again. What do you suppose is going to be the human experience when they choose for the creation instead of the creator? Well, you're going to be disappointed a lot. If you stay with the creator, then you actually get to keep all of it. So notice what it says about the Son of God, through whom God created the world. And the Son of God, now having lived in history in the world as Jesus Christ incarnate, he reflects the glory of God. In other words, you see in Jesus the very nature of God. The glory of God is what God does that no one else can do, or no one else would do, even if they could. So what do you see Jesus doing? We've done that in the Gospels, right? He's restoring creation. He's giving people their lives back, healthy, raised from the dead, not hungry anymore. Everything goes back like the Garden of Eden before the failure of Adam. And he bears the very imprint of his nature. If you want to know something about God or see something from God, you read the Gospels. Jesus is showing it to you. We'll get to a text in the Gospel of John. It's Thursday evening before the crucifixion, and Philip says to Jesus, show us the Father, show us God the Father, and we'll be satisfied. And Jesus has a Napoleon Dynamite moment. He goes like, don't you get it? You're looking at the Father. I am your way of seeing what God the Father looks like. And finally, upholding the universe by the word of his power. How is it that all things continue to exist and are even regenerated? What is the power of nature to recover from different abuses that were imposed on it by humanity? All of that is still the active presence of God in his creation. So that's the beginning of this book to the Hebrews. Okay, we did that. So let's go to chapter 2 now, verse 1. Where are we? Julie, please.
Therefore, we must pay much closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it.
No?
For since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, and every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution, how shall we escape if we neglect such a great salvation?
Okay, so we must pay the most the more close attention to what we've heard, lest what happens? Lest we drift away. Now, the forces of drift are very powerful in our world, right? The world is suctioning you over in this direction, isn't it? Remember how the phone works, the iPhone, the algorithms, Amazon, social media, they pull you in. How many times has this happened to you? You were just going to check something quick on your phone, and then what? And then like a long time later, you went, oh, I was supposed to do so. Okay, my wife hates computers, but she sits down at it every night. She's like there for hours. What are you doing? Well, these little things came up, so you click on it. That's what you do. Okay, so drifting. Now, here's the problem with drift is that you don't actually know what's happening. That's the big danger of it. So if you're driving, it's really important that you're not looking over here at what's going on, because have you had that experience? Steve, what happens? Then you rear end somebody. That's bad too. But let's say there's nobody on the road. Okay, then your car tends to go where you're looking, left or right. That's how lots of other accidents happen. If we wanted to fly from John Wayne Airport here to O'Hare in Chicago, so we got our jet up in the air, right? And we're going to point it right at where Chicago is, and then like 3 hours later we'll be there. Yes? Hey, Melanie? No. Why didn't we get to Chicago?
Wait, I didn't.
Yeah. So here, I'll do this better with a picture, right? So here's LA. Here's Chicago. We got it. We got our jet going, and we aimed it exactly there. Right? Should work. Except that 3 hours later, we missed. What happened? Well, there's that. We got a moving target here, right? So the Earth, which goes, yeah. So now Chicago's over here, and there's nothing here where Chicago used to be. There's one more problem. There's this thing called the wind, and it's going to keep pushing us one way or the other. So I have to keep correcting. So how do we do this? Well, we have this GPS thing, right? Planes have been using that for a long time. A gyroscope. I got all kinds of instruments that help tell me, where's that thing I'm going for now? Well, now it's here, so keep reorient. In your car, even if the road's straight, you can't just do this, right? Because your steering's not that precise. So you're always having to compensate. I remember as a little kid, my dad doing this. Like, what are you doing? Okay, you just, no, he explained it to me. Okay, so when you think about this is the essence and the source of my life, but I have a life in this world, and I know the dynamics of this world. So because I live in this world, I'm going to have to keep, right? I'm going to have to keep reorienting. Did I tell you that I give you a solution for worry? Remember that? God makes all things work together for good in the best of all possible worlds. No need to worry. How many of you have worried since I said that? See, you have to keep coming back. Even through the course of the day, you have to keep coming back to what it is God told you, both in terms of truth, this is how things actually work, and in terms of grace, this is how God assures you that He provides for your life. And remember how Hebrews began, who upholds all things by the word of His power, including your life. A very constant and personal evidence. Remember that evidence thing. Evidence for that is here. Just put your fingers right here. What do you feel? Heartbeat. There is God's constant witness to you that He wants you to live and not die. Respiration, heartbeat. That's why meditation actually works, because you're sort of backing out of this world into what really matters and realize, hey, it's there, it's happening. And then I can sort of catch my breath and get my feet back on the ground and move ahead in my life again. Okay, now to 2 verse 14. Yeah, please.
Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is the devil.
Daniel.
And deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to the torment.
Sunny? Fear.
For surely it is not with angels that he's concerned, but with the descendants of Abraham.
Yeah, Sonny, who are the descendants of Abraham? You are. So remember, when you get to this language in the New Testament, he's not talking about a physical genetic nation. He's talking about people who were born when no birth could take place. So the thing about Isaac was that Abraham and Sarah were incapable of conceiving. And then God, by means of his word, brings about a conception. So this is talking about a regenerate soul, which is talking about you guys. Catalina, 17.
Therefore, you have to be made like his brethren in every respect, so that you might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God to make substitution for the sins of the people.
Garrett.
For because he himself has suffered and been tempted, he is
able
to help those who are tempted.
Good, thank you. So notice that God doesn't even expect us to just accept that he knows what we're going through, what our life is like, and the challenges that we face. So he takes on human nature exactly like ours from the Virgin Mary. And when he did so, did he come into the world here? No, right? Because if he came in here, you still wouldn't think that he knows what's going on in your life, would you? How do you know what's life is like down here? Does Paris Hilton, have you heard of her? Okay. Does Paris Hilton have any idea what the average person's life is like? Not that I'm not criticizing her about that. She can't help it into what family she was born or what the experiences she had. But we know that she doesn't have the same experiences. Every time I go to John Wayne, you ever see all those Lear jets out there, all these private jets? I don't know what it's like to just go to the airport and fly away, not stand in line and be with, okay. But Jesus comes in here. He comes in lower than the lowest. He doesn't even have a place to call home when he's born. He's born in a stable. So he's the poorest of the poor. And from that context, he operates. And as Jesus lives through the course of his life, does he prove that he's God by getting to the top? No, he stays right there. That's how he proves he's God, by healing people. Does he charge for that? No. Raising people from the dead, feeding people, the new Chick-fil-A. Oh, no. Yeah, that's free. It's just yours. Okay, so giving everything away, including his own life. So the middle text there. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood. Now notice, the essence of who you are is not flesh and blood. That's why when we're thinking about identity and orientation, especially in our culture, it's not an antagonistic conversation. Why? Because we all share the exact same orientation and identity. We're fundamentally a soul, remember? It doesn't have age or race or ethnicity or nationality. It doesn't have gender. So we're all the same, made in the image of God, children of God. And then we experience life in particular ways, in times, in places, with one gender or another, and all kinds of other dynamics. So we do share in flesh and blood, but that's not the essence of who we are. What did he do? Through death, he might destroy him who had the power of death. That is the devil. Now, there's two ways in which Jesus did that. It's so important. How many of you are afraid to die? So if somebody broke into your room tonight and pointed a gun at you, you're like cool as a cucumber, right? Like, yeah, whatever. Yes? No, Priscilla, did that make you nervous? Yeah, you might be shaking for a while. Yeah, okay. Now, how are we going to free, we're going to liberate Priscilla from her fear of, we'll just call it murder, but it's death, fear of death. How are we going to do that? There's two ways we could do it, yeah? We could assign a bodyguard to Priscilla, yes? Okay, so Carl Collins, my daughter's self-defense teacher at USC, we're just gonna assign him to you, Priscilla, he just is with you 24/7. Okay, so nobody's gonna get you, he's number two dangerous person in the world. You're gonna never fear again?
I feel a lot better.
You feel better, but might fear creep back in. Yeah, what if somebody breaks in when Carl's in the kitchen having a sandwich or something like, or what if he's asleep or else? So is there a better way to free Priscilla from her food death? We saw this in the Gospels, actually. Remember? I'll just shoot you myself, Priscilla. And then what? And then I'm going to take Priscilla's hand and raise her back up again. And there you are. So the wound closed, the bullet's not there, she's back on her feet. She isn't even traumatized. She's like, wow. Okay, now are you afraid? Maybe a little bit. Yeah, so I shot her again. Right? I could do this, I don't know, 7, 8 times until Priscilla quits flinching when I pull my gun. That's it. Yeah. So how did Jesus convince people in the Gospels that he was liberating them from fear of death? Forever raising dead people, right? He finds out, we didn't get there yet, but he finds out that Lazarus is sick. So he better hurry up and get there. And be like, no. And then he waits until people, that's too late, Lazarus is dead. And then he waits 4 more days. And then he goes to Lazarus, get him up from the dead, no problem. Okay, so that's the one way. The other way he rescues us from death is this bigger death, the death of the soul. Okay, so the power of the devil to destroy is to hold the law against you. So we're all lawbreakers. We don't keep the law of God. We don't love our neighbor as ourselves. We don't love our enemies. We don't love God above all things. So because we are contrary to the law, then we fail, and failure means death and disintegration. Okay, the devil's power is to accuse us of those failures before God, right? God is just, therefore the devil thinks, okay, if I say, God, look at all the law breaking Melanie did, God, and you say in your law that she has to be condemned, so do it. How did Jesus liberate Melanie from that accusation? Switches places. So now Jesus is everything that's wrong with Melanie, with Ross, Julie, me, you, everybody, the whole world. He trades places and he is executed for everybody. So now, where's the power of the devil? Devil's going to come before God to accuse us of all the things we've done wrong. And God said, like, what? There's nothing there. So the only thing left for the devil to do, see, this is reality. That God, you can't die and everything's yours. That God loves you with an everlasting love and he makes all things work together for your good. All these promises, it's all true. So what's left? What if I could get you out of there? What if I could deceive you and make you think there's something better for you somewhere else, but it really isn't? So that's address 2. And he delivers those right here, and he delivers those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong bondage. So think of any emotion you can that we don't want. Isn't what's behind that fear? So for example, there's a lot of angry people around today, yes? Right? Especially about masks and vaccines and stuff. But you know what's behind the fear, or behind the anger is, okay, wait. Fear. Okay. So, but if you're scared and you say, oh, I'm really scared, then people think you're like a sissy or something, right? So I don't want people to think I'm a sissy. So instead of expressing my fear honestly, I'm going to be angry about something. That makes me seem powerful, doesn't it? I'm strong. Let's look how angry I am. And I'm going to get in other people's faces and assert myself against them because they're wrong and I'm right. And it's still fear in there. What's every single argument that ever takes place about? It's all the same. Every argument, what's it about?
Opposing you.
Garrett?
An opposing view.
Yeah, so why do I argue about it? See, what's keeping me from saying, so Garrett says black, I say white. So, Garrett, tell me about black. Let me buy you a coffee, Garrett. Tell me about black. What's keeping us that from happening? Why are we always so antagonistic? What's behind that?
Pride. Pride.
Pride. And what's behind the pride? You're right. Okay, here comes this annoying philosopher thing again. What's behind the pride?
Fear of being wrong.
Yes. Okay, and part of pride is I think if I'm proud and I'm right about being proud, then God likes me, right? Because I'm a better person than the next person. That's pride. Okay. Even to something like, where should we go for dinner? Well, I want sushi and my wife wants Italian. I don't want Italian. So what's the argument about? Julie? Yeah, but it's deep. It's a little deeper. I'm afraid that if we go to her choice of restaurant and not my choice of restaurant, I won't like it. Oh, well, maybe I don't need to be afraid of that anymore. Maybe I could just like be okay with what everybody else is doing and see how it goes. Yes, I held you over. I apologize, except you got a whole week to recover. So if you want one of these handouts, please do take one. Otherwise, have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you in 10 days. Yes,
Are you handing out back tests? Handing back tests?
you want, yeah, I have a with me. If you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I love the team. Yeah, thank you, Ross. Take care. There's I got lots of them, so don't worry. There's more here. Yeah, sure.
I've actually seen them.
You know. So, yeah, is that what you want? You can take it with you. Just bring it back. Mhm. Oh. Okay. Good. Yeah, no problem. Did you want yours, Priscilla?
Oh.
You're okay. I love that about you, Priscilla. You're okay.
I'm so sorry. Totally forgot. Chapter in there.
Are you that person in the TSA line? You have a question or?
Yeah, I don't know. If you
Take your phone, you still have your text, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, have a look, and if you still have some questions, I can.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome, yeah. Yeah, compare it to the test and.
Yeah,
All you guys are welcome.
okay. I'll come back with some questions.
Ah.
then.
I love that. Hey, thank you. Have a great